Hey, Dream Team, it's Eddie. I'm just sitting here chillaxing on my couch. Wanted to do another Ask and Seek video. This is one that I've been meaning to do for, oh gosh, probably a month now. And this stems from a conversation I was having with one of my friends and coworkers. And we were just talking about movies, and then that spiraled into our shared love and appreciation for the Harry Potter films, of which I have all of them. And that's one of those franchises of films I'm sure I've bought probably at least three times. Because I know I bought them all on DVD. I had the whole collection on DVD. That was back when you had like 2 and 3 disc sets. And then I had all the Blu-rays that came out separately, year after year after year as they were made. And of course, those had all like the special features and stuff, and all like the bonus content and the puzzles and stuff you could do on the supplemental discs. And then, of course, I bought once they were all over and done with, I bought a like a box set that had all 8 films in it, including the Deathly Hallows Parts 1 and 2. And then, of course, I do have the Fantastic Beasts films. I don't think too very much of the Fantastic Beasts films. I see what they were trying to go for with those, but I personally don't care for them. I watched each one once, and I'll be very, very unlikely to watch them again. But anyway, the conversation and what it has to do with our Ask and Seek video today. The question came up: should Christians watch the Harry Potter films? And I was like, whew, that is a doozy of a question, and it's one that's been, ping-ponged and bandied around since the books came out. Because if you remember all the way back to the beginning when the first couple books came out, the Christian community was, up in arms over the books, and there were even certain groups and factions and organizations that were hosting book burnings. I remember pictures and videos of the first couple Rowling books being burned, like in fire pits and stuff. It was a weird time. I also remember back around the same time, I remember the Dixie Chicks CDs being burned in fire pits and stuff. I can't remember what the problem was with the Dixie Chicks, but I do remember the Rowling books being burned by upset people that were saying, "Oh, our children, they're going, our children are going to be casting spells and sacrificing frogs and cursing each other and hexing each other and making each other float out windows and stuff." I mean, I'm being ridiculous now, but yeah, there was an uproar from the, I don't want to say necessarily just the Christian community, but the religious community as a whole. So yeah, you know, and this kind of is relevant, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this at the end of my video. But there is a high level, very prominent video game coming out in a couple months, or maybe sooner than that. It's called Hogwarts Legacy, and you play as like a first year student at Hogwarts, and it's set something like 100 or 200 years before the events of Harry Potter. But you get put in a house, you go to, potions class and spell class, and you have to fight like dark wizards and stuff. And I saw some gameplay where you were taking on a troll. Um, it kind of looks like a cross between like standard third person action adventure and kind of almost like God of War. So it looks really cool. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. We'll talk more about the video game, like I said, later. But topic at hand is: should Christians endorse, watch, purchase, or be involved in the Harry Potter stuff? Okay, so this is a multifaceted issue, so we have to come at this from a couple different angles. So the first issue is magic the issue? Is magic the problem? Is magic the reason why we are getting off this boat or not supporting this franchise or not watching these films or not playing these games? So is magic the issue? Now the problem with, if we say yes to that, then we come into a quandary, because the Lord of the Rings has magic in it. But the Christian community has largely supported Lord of the Rings because the author, J.R.R. Tolkien, was a Roman Catholic Christian. And a lot of the allegory and deeper meaning of the Lord of the Rings films points to Christian themes. such as the return of Jesus Christ and the character of Aragorn, and I could go on and on. But this is about Harry Potter, not Lord of the Rings. But if we deny Harry Potter for magic, then we can't be hypocrites. We have to deny Lord of the Rings for its magic too. But like I said, the Christian Catholic community has largely embraced with open arms the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Then we have the problem with the Chronicles of Narnia. Now, the Chronicles of Narnia can actually be more problematic because that has actual witches. And I would argue the magic in Narnia is actually a lot darker and more sinister than the magic featured in Lord of the Rings. Now, the reason the Christian Catholic community has embraced Narnia, despite its dark undertones and use of magic, is because C.S. Lewis was a Christian. So, and again, with his work, just like Tolkien's, there's a lot of underlying themes of Christian values, Christian history, the underpinnings of the Christian faith are wrote large in C.S. Lewis's books, more so than they are in Tolkien's. Tolkien's kind of lays under a veneer of fantasy, whereas C.S. Lewis is much less subtle about his Christian intentions with his works. Then the other problem we have as Christians is if we're going to say that magic is the problem, then not only do we have to jettison Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia, but we also have to get rid of Star Wars. Now, a lot of you are out there going, what, Star Wars? What are you talking about, Eddie? Star Wars ain't got nothing to do with magic, you crazy kid. Well, actually, Star Wars is what's called the monomyth, which is basically a play on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And Star Wars is simply a fantasy film set in space. So what you have is you have Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is plugged in with the Force, but he is a Jedi. But he is basically the old wise wizard that counsels the young knight. Now, Luke Skywalker is the young knight in training, and he too learns quote-unquote magic, which in the Star Wars fable is the Force. You have the princess who's locked in the tower. Now, the princess is Leia. But instead of being locked in a tower, she's locked in a Death Star. Okay? And then you have the evil wizard knight, who instead of being an evil wizard knight is the evil armored Sith Lord Darth Vader. Now, he could easily be transposed for the mythic dragon that the knight has to slay in order to rescue the princess. Okay? And then you have the rogue knight, who is Han Solo. Anyway, again, this isn't about Star Wars. This is about Harry Potter. But because Star Wars used as a springboard into its fantasy, basic sort of knights in shining armor, wizard, and magic fantasy, if we're going to get rid of magic, then we have to get rid of the Force. And if we're going to get rid of the Force, we have to get rid of Star Wars. Okay? And then another problem we have is if we're going to jettison Harry Potter out of Christian values, then we have to jettison basically everything Disney has done since Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, because we have an evil witch. The witch that tempts Snow White to bite the poison apple. And then if you get into Sleeping Beauty, you have Maleficent, and if you get into some of the modern Disney stuff, you have Facilier, who's plugged in with the voodoo stuff. But yeah, dark magic is heavily prevalent in Disney, and it's only backfired against Disney once, because there was this movie called The Black Cauldron that was made, I think, in the 1970s, around about the time that Rescuers and can't think of the other one, Fox and the Hound was made. And there was a lot of backlash on the Black Cauldron because the dark magic and demonic imagery that it had in that film was very, very keen, not very subtle at all, and a lot of parents groups got really mad at that. But yeah, Disney deals in both good magic and dark magic. So if we're going to jettison Harry Potter for its use of good magic and dark magic, then we have to jettison Disney as well. So, as a Christian community, we have to ask ourselves, if we're going to jettison Harry Potter, are we really ready to get rid of Lord of the Rings, Narnia, Star Wars, and all the classic Disney stuff? Another problem is the idea is magic the problem? The magic in Harry Potter doesn't seem to come from like pentagrams and sacrifices and demon worship. It's seems to be sort of a natural thing. Like wizards are born, and they're born into strong families of wizardry, much like Luke is born into strong family in the Force. And then that sort of naturalistic magic either is used for good or evil, much like the Force. So, um, from what we know as sort of like demonic work or demonic influence or demonic pressure, that doesn't seem to be the quote unquote magic that exists inside the Harry Potter verse. Um, so, where do we go from here? Okay, so the second thing we have to look at, like the first thing was, is the problem magic? Okay, obviously we've kind of delineated that no, because magic exists in all these other pop culture tokens that we as Christians readily devour, especially Star Wars. Christians love Star Wars, so you'll see that a lot in the Christian communities. Um, so we have to look at, what does Harry Potter encourage? So if the Christian community is correct in that if it's demonic, if it's satanic, if it's steeped in witchcraft and wizardry to the point where it becomes ill-advised for consumption, then we have to look at, okay, well, what are the deeper themes and meanings that the Harry Potter franchise swims in? And if it just truly is this evil demonic bent, then there should be evil demonic things at the core of the franchise and at the core of the substantive nature of what the franchise promotes. However, at the core of the Harry Potter franchises are things, and I wrote these down. Forgive me if I'm looking over here. So, the Harry Potter franchise, what does it support and encourage? Love, sacrifice, unity, community, understanding, gentleness, courage, bravery, truth, self-control, wisdom, and forgiveness. Now, let me read those again because I think it's easy to kind of glaze over or gloss over the core tenets of the Harry Potter franchise: love, sacrifice, unity, community, understanding, gentleness, courage, bravery, truth, self control, wisdom, and forgiveness. So, at the core of this franchise that does use magic as its template, you find a lot of biblical standards at the core of this secular tale. All that list that I just read to you could easily be me describing things coming from scripture verses. Okay, so those are at the core of what Harry Potter as a character, Harry Potter as a franchise, and Harry Potter as a literature work stand for. Okay, so where do we stand? What side does the coin land on? Ultimately, what we have to use in order to really solidify this argument and come to a consensus is we have to use what's called discernment. Okay, so if we're going to get rid of the Harry Potter books or the Harry Potter movies, then we really have to go back to this idea of getting rid of a lot of classic, integral works of literature and fiction. So if we're saying that the Harry Potter franchise and books are inappropriate, then we have to get rid of all the classic fairy tales. So we're talking the Brothers Grimm, Hans Christian Andersen. We even have to go back to core foundational works of literature like Beowulf or the Odyssey or the Iliad, and we have to get rid of those too, because if magic is the problem, then we have to get rid of those. So I'm not going to sit here today and tell like a Christian family, you need to let your children watch the Harry Potter. No, 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 no. Because those good tenets that are found in the Harry Potter franchise, like I said, like the love, the sacrifice, the unity, the community, the understanding, the courage, the call to action, the call to gentleness, the call to forgiveness, the call to love, bravery, truth, wisdom, all those things can be found in other monomyths, other heroes' journeys, or other um, mediums of like pop culture entertainment, right? I mean, we were just talking about Lord of the Rings, Narnia, Star Wars, all these things. So I'm not going to be as presumptuous to sit here and say you must indulge in Harry Potter, because you don't have to indulge in anything. As a Christian, as an atheist, as an agnostic, as anything, you don't have to indulge in anything. All this media consumption, arguably, is not good for us anyway. We could be out doing other things other than watching Harry Potter or Star Wars. We could be serving in local community centers. We could be um, recycling. We could be helping clean up local state parks. There are tons of other things that we could be doing with our time, other than sitting down with our popcorn or our dinner and plugging into 2 hours and 20 minutes of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, or 3 hours of Star Wars Rise of the Jedi Skywalker Force Awakens or whatever. So I'm not going to presume to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do with their time, or what they should or shouldn't consume when it comes to media. Especially me, and those of you who know me know, I mean, I dive into a lot of media that a Christian would just look and go, well, how could you watch that? Now, with me, it comes to discernment. I look at my faith, the grounding of my faith, and then I measure the movie against the tenets of my faith. That's why I'm able to watch a lot of horror movies and a lot of scary movies and stuff, because I look at that and, okay, so how does that measure up to what I understand about good and evil? How does that measure up to what I understand about demons? How does that measure up about what I understand about the eternal conflict between good and evil, God and Satan, and how that affects the human heart and the human understanding and the human condition? So it comes to discernment. But like I said, if we're going to get rid of Harry Potter because of the magic and because of the dark elements, we have to get rid of a lot of other bits of pop culture that swim in the same waters. So, you know where I stand. Ultimately, there's nothing that's going to harm or influence the Christian or the Christian child or the Christian household in the Harry Potter films that doesn't stand to be as influential coming from any other piece of pop culture entertainment that swims or deals in magic or magical elements. So, again, it's discernment. As a parent, as a family, as a household, as a young, when you say, okay, kids, we're going to sit down and watch Harry Potter, or you can say, no, I don't want that in my living room. I don't want that in my house. You can say that. You have that right. But from an analytical perspective, looking at it from the point of comparing it to other media, no, there's nothing any more intrinsically harmful or dangerous or degenerative about the Harry Potter stuff than there is in any other, like I said, magic or fantasy based franchise. Like I said, the Christian community likes to lob onto and really attach itself to the Lord of the Rings stuff and the Narnia stuff because those were written by Christians. But it's kind of hypocritical to set our families and our people and encourage our people to sit down and watch those films while at the same time tossing Harry Potter out, because there are truly intrinsically valuable things at the core of the Harry Potter franchise that Christians, yes, Christians can walk away from those films and go, okay, I feel edified, I feel encouraged because I connect my faith to elements of these films that encourage things that bring blessings: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control, forgiveness, acceptance, community, love, sacrifice. Those are things that are at the core of the Harry Potter franchise, and those are things that Christians can attach their understanding, again using discernment, can attach our understanding to and say, okay, I am encouraged by this fanciful, fantastic, magic fueled tale, but at the same time, I am encouraged by it, I am entertained by it, and I have gained edification and enrichment from it. Okay? So, Christians, nothing to fear from the Harry Potter franchise, but like I said, if you don't want to swim in those waters, I'm not compelling anybody to watch anything. If you don't want Star Wars in your house, fine, that's fine. You don't want Star Trek in your house, that's fine. Some Christian households don't even want video games in their house. That's fine. That's up to you. It's for as in me and my house kind of thing, you know. Now we're going to talk about the Hogwarts Legacy video game coming out. I want to touch on this real quick. So online, there's been a lot of backlash about the amount of pre-orders that have been going on for the Hogwarts Legacy video game that's going to be on a multitude of platforms. It's going to be on PS5, PS4, all the Xbox Series systems, including the lesser models, and it's going to be on Xbox One. I don't know if it's going to be on Switch, Nintendo Switch, or not, because I don't know if the Switch is powerful enough to run it. But you're looking at easily 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're looking at 6 or 7 different releases of this Hogwarts Legacy game. And like I said, it's set like a 100 or 200 years before the events of Harry Potter. You play a first year, you get sorted into your house, and you go to your classes, and you fight dark wizards, and there's an underlying threat that you have to, combat and solve the mystery of, and it looks fantastic. Now, I myself have been drawn toward the Harry Potter video games ever since, the early 2000s? There was one game that I remember playing on the GameCube where you could actually get on the broom and actually, fly around Hogwarts and zoom past the main hall and go under the bridges and over the parapets and up the spires and stuff. And it was just so cool being able to fly around Hogwarts and take in the geometry of it and the dimensionality of it and the green fields, and you could fly down to the Quidditch pitch and stuff. It was really cool. So, there is a draw to those who have an inclination to enjoy the Harry Potter films, to want to play a game that allows you to walk around, live in, interact, to really live and breathe inside the world of Harry Potter, and especially Hogwarts Castle, because there's so much intrigue and there's so much mystery and there's so much fancifulness to it that it's very engaging and compelling to people. So one problem that we're having with this video game is those who have a problem with certain socio-political stances that Rowling has. So Rowling has taken on some very unpopular socio-political stances of late. Now, what is happening is that you have two camps of people. One camp of people is be like, hey, I just want to pre-order this game. I just want to enjoy this game. I'm a Harry Potter fan. This game looks like fun. Now, the other camp of people are looking at those people and saying, no, you can't pre-order this game because J.K. Rowling has said things. And because she has said things, you cannot enjoy her works. You cannot watch her movies. You cannot buy her books. And you certainly cannot pre-order, buy, purchase, play, and enjoy Hogwarts Legacy because J.K. Rowling has said things. Things which are, sorry for the voice, but that's kind of the idea. Because J.K. Rowling has said negative, venomous, very, I'm struggling for the words here, things that a person shouldn't say. Okay, let's just put it that way. She has put down certain people groups. She has said some wildly contradictory things that have upset a lot of people. And because she has said these things, the idea is that we must boycott or avoid her books, the Harry Potter movies, and of course this new video game coming out, Hogwarts Legacy. Now, there is a problem here because I bring up this theological thing called death of the author. Okay, so death of the author is this old theological statement that basically says that once an author puts out their book or their movie or whatever, that it becomes the property of the people. Once people take it into their hearts and take it into their minds, then whatever the author's intent was with this published work, whether it be a movie or a video game or a book or whatever, that author's full intention then is dead. And that it becomes the purview and preference of the reader or the watcher or the experiencer to bring their inner social landscape to the work and bring out the deeper meaning or the meanings therein in order for them to understand and comprehend the work. Again, whether it's literature, movie, or a video game. So you can look up, just type in Google death of the author for a better explanation than I could give you of that. So the problem we have with Rowling, and the problem we have with those who wish to boycott all her media, her books, the Warner Brothers movies, and this new game, which is coming out from Avalanche Software, which has been a game developing company that I've followed for years. Years back, they made this wonderful series of games called Disney Infinity. Now, some of you might remember Disney Infinity. It was where you had the little figures, and you could set them on the little bases, and you could play as, I mean, you had everybody. You had Pirates of the Caribbean, you had Monsters Inc., you had Toy Story, you had, and then later when Disney bought Marvel, you could play as the Marvel people like Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow. Oh, it was so cool, so cool. There are ways you can play that still to this day. It's not completely dead. But anyway, Avalanche Software is great. So anyway, Hogwarts Legacy. What do we do with it? So let's just say we don't like what Rowling stands for. We don't like what she said. We're not behind her in any way, shape, or form. Do we boycott this game and not swim in the Harry Potter universe in order to teach her a lesson? Okay? If you want to, go for it. If you know, there's this really profound socioeconomic principle called voting with your wallet. Okay? It happens every time a movie comes out. A movie comes into theaters, people vote with their wallets to either see it or not see it. Either buy a ticket or don't buy a ticket. A lot of people thought that a lot of people wouldn't want to see Avatar: The Way of Water. But turns out a lot of people did. It's now like the fourth or fifth highest grossing movie of all time. Behind a couple Marvel movies, Titanic and the first Avatar. So people voted with their money. They voted with their wallet. And they said that Avatar 2, The Way of Water, is something that we want to see in theaters. Okay? Now we get to do the same thing with Hogwarts Legacy and the Harry Potter movies and J.K. Rowling's books. We get to vote with our money. We get to vote with our wallet. We can walk into Barnes & Noble and nobody is forcing us to either buy Rowling's books or not buy Rowling's books. We can walk into Best Buy or shop on Amazon. No one is forcing us to either buy the Harry Potter Blu-rays or not buy the Harry Potter Blu-rays. And the same thing with this Hogwarts Legacy game. Nobody is forcing us to either say, don't buy that game, and no one's forcing us to say, yes, you need to buy that game. We get to choose. We get to vote. We get to stand with this franchise and this mythology, or we get to leave it behind. Now, the problem becomes when we say that, okay, is standing with this mythology and this franchise the same thing as standing with J.K. Rowling? That's where it gets a little trickier, because with every Hogwarts Legacy game sold, she will get a percentage of that sale. Now, how much it is, I don't know. I'm not an economics major, but I do know that her licensing agreements with the Harry Potter franchise means that she will see a fraction of that purchase going back to her and lining her pocketbook. Now, the same thing goes for George Lucas. Every time you pick up a Star Wars Blu-ray or every time you log into Disney Plus and you watch Force Awakens or Last Jedi or A New Hope, there are licensing agreements that kick back to him as the creator. Or anytime you go into, or anytime Eddie goes into Target or Walmart and buys a Star Wars action figure, George Lucas is still getting return on that property because he has the licensing agreements in place so that he is basically earning money on those in perpetuity. Okay, so Rowling has the same thing. She's not stupid. She understands that every time a book goes off the shelf or every time somebody downloads the movie or anytime somebody buys the Blu-ray or anytime somebody buys Hogwarts Legacy, she's going to see a fraction of that. But I would argue that there are so many other people involved in the franchising of the Harry Potter universe. So in the game, everybody who made the game, Avalanche Software, they don't have anything to do with Rowling. They're just people working on a game, trying to make it the best game they can in order to, again, achieve a good game for the people. But they're people. They're trying to work a job. They have families. They want food on their table. They want their kids to have educations. And they want their kids to have sustenance and things like, a roof over their head and clothes. So, um, we have to ask the question, is it right to hurt, the people who have been working on Hogwarts Legacy for the last 4 years to make it the best game that it possibly can? Is it right to cut them off at the knees in order to prove a point to Rowling? Okay. Now, you can separate Rowling from the movies, the books, and the video games and enjoy the mythos for what it is using the doctrine of death of the author. Okay? Um, or, and this is the flip side of it, you can run out and buy all the Harry Potter stuff and set it up in your house and say, I bought all this stuff to support J.K. Rowling. You can say that. Or you can say, I ran out and bought all this stuff because, hey, I like this mythology, I like this world, and I want to swim in this narrative and swim in this mythology, but I don't really care for Rowling, and I don't really care what she's standing for, saying, or doing. Um, but in doing so, yes, you are like you're. Boy, my brain just went. You're still lining her pockets. There still is that kickback to her, but you are also supporting the filmmakers, the directors, the executive producers. You're supporting the guy who held the rigging or the guy who built the sets on Harry Potter, or you're supporting the cinematographer, or you're supporting all the hardworking people that worked at Pinewood Studios to make all the sets and all the CGI artists that did all the creature work. Same goes for the video game. When you buy that video game, yes, a small fraction of that is getting kicked back to Rowling, but you're supporting the dynamics teams, the ones that make the physics works. You're supporting the lighting and rigging teams, the one that makes the natural light look so good. You're supporting the texture teams, the ones that make the rocks and the grass and the water and stuff look so good. You're supporting the combat designer, the ones that make the combat and the spell casting feel so tight and good and fun to play. You're supporting the layout team, the ones that make Hogwarts Castle actually fun to explore, and what's behind this door and what's behind this door. So I've gone on this way too long. But the question is, where do I come down on this death of the author thing? And most importantly, will I be pre-ordering and buying Hogwarts Legacy for my systems? Okay. The answer is both yes and no. One, I do believe in death of the author. I believe that the Harry Potter franchise well transcends whatever negative or disparaging views or hurtful or hateful things that Rowling says. I definitely believe it transcends that. And I do want to support Avalanche Software because they're a great game developer. So, yes, I will be buying Harry Potter uh, Hogwarts Legacy, the video game. However, I won't be pre-ordering it because I'm going to wait until it drops down to like 30 or 40 bucks. I just don't play video games in the same sort of rapid succession that I used to like 10 or 15 years ago. So eventually, yes, I will get the game, but I'm not going to pay full price for it. I'll pay like 40 or $30 for it on a holiday sale or whatever. So because I want to fly around Hogwarts. I want to explore the castle. I want to go to potions class because that stuff is fun. It's engaging. It engages the childlike spirit. It engages the mystery of Hogwarts, and it engages the fun and the wonder of the mythology. So yes, I'm looking forward to it. But ultimately, to wrap this up, this has gone on way too long. Ultimately, it comes down to personal choice, personal volition, and what you choose to either um, purchase or not purchase, support or not support, endorse or not endorse. But ultimately, to the main question that came up from the conversation was, should a Christian watch Harry Potter, or should a Christian on Christian principles leave, the Harry Potter mythos, the world behind, including its books, movies, and media, video games and stuff? And ultimately, the answer is as long as you use discernment, and as long as you come at these things with an analytical and in an eye of wisdom and understanding, there's nothing more wrong for a Christian to watch Harry Potter than there is something as equally wrong as a Christian to tune into something like Chronicles of Narnia or Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or the Disney stuff. So, like I said, ultimately it comes down to choice. I'm not presumptuous enough or egotistical enough to sit here and tell you what you need to do as a Christian or as a non-Christian, as an atheist, as an agnostic, as a Catholic, as a Christian, as a Mormon, whatever. No, that's not my place. That's your place. But it's such an engaging conversation, and I've been meaning to make this video. So, anyway, I'll sign out before this becomes a 40-minute video. So, anyway, God bless you, God keep you. Thanks for tuning into this conversation, and yeah, this has been Ask and Seek with Eddie. Laters.